just fits right in with everything else, the way everything else is going. Now, what was I talking about? Oh, Derek has a student, which he asked if she needs her preaching experience and asked if she can preach here. She's going to preach once a month at El Dorado. And I said we would be more than happy to have her come here. So I'm thinking we will get that started in September, October, November, and December. We haven't finalized anything yet. I just responded to him and said that would be good. We would love to have her. And I haven't heard back what the details are going to be. So that would be a possibility. We'll have a student to listen to. We are always open to anybody who wants to come speak for pretty much any reason on pretty much any topic, as long as it's basically acceptable to the general group. So, okay, our chalice lighting. We join together as one congregation by Michelle LaGrave. We gather together. We arrive as individuals, as couples, as families, as neighbors, as friends. We got here by walking, biking, by riding, by driving, by connecting. We bring with us our joys, our sorrows, our laughter, and our tears, our worries and our fears, our questions and our beliefs, our ethics and our values. Some of us arrived early this morning or joined us 10 minutes ago, or encountered obstacles on their way and will arrive just in time for the sermon, or will sign on later this week or even next month. We are sitting in pews, leaning on walkers or canes, stretching in the aisles, settling in wheelchairs, or relaxing in recliners. We, members, friends, and visitors alike, come from many paths and join together as one congregation to lift up our highest ideals. We have gathered, now let us worship. Our opening hymn is number 21 in the blue hymnal, For the Beauty of the Earth. Which from our birth over and around us lies. Source of all, to thee we raise this, our hymn of grateful praise. It's quite a night. Last night, most people probably were in a tornado alert. Some were in a tornado warning. We got 3.5 inches of rain in less than an hour. Washed out. I've got a gravel driveway that goes up to the barn, and it washed gullies in that almost 6 inches deep. And I'm going to have to put like bricks or stones or chunks of concrete, because just putting gravel back in there will wash right out again. But that is something that we are seeing more and more. Not only are our politics unsettled and seemingly upside down, even the weather is turning as a mirror of what's going on in the world, and maybe it's a reflection that we need to pay attention to. Some places are dry and inflamed with fires that can't be stopped, thousands of acres. Other places that, and everybody will tell you the same thing, we've never seen a flood like this. It rains 3 inches or 4 inches or 10 inches in an hour, and the streets flood, cars float away, houses are flooded, businesses are flooded. Then you've got tornadoes in places that don't normally have tornadoes. They had one out east in Maryland or Delaware, somewhere out there. They rarely see tornadoes. And in the places that have tornadoes, like Kansas and the Midwest, they're everywhere now. And big F3 tornadoes, miles wide and miles long, that just destroy the countryside. Global warming, and people can debate whether it is true or not, but I think we are seeing the effects. Okay, the affirmation. We hold hope close, by Julian Yameka Soto. In this community, we hold hope close. We don't always know what comes next, but that cannot dissuade us. We don't always know just what to do, but that will not mean that we are lost in the wilderness. We rely on the certainty beneath, the foundation of our values and ethics. We are the people who return to love like a North Star, and to the truth that we are greater together than we are alone. Our hope does not live in some glimmer of an indistinct future. Rather, we know the way to the world of which we dream. And by covenant and the movement forward of one right action and the next, we know that one day we will arrive at home. That is from Spilling the Light. Joys and concerns. We have an email from Margaret. She's paying attention. I'm not sure. She didn't say she was watching anything. I sent her the location of the Facebook thing. And actually, I told her that we copied it from Facebook. I know she doesn't like Facebook, so we copied this from Facebook to YouTube. And it is on New Madison Church, New Madison Universalist Church. Church is cut off, and then there's 4 numbers at the end. I don't know how that title got on there, but if you look on YouTube, you can find the New Madison Universalist Church. We copy over, because what happens on Facebook is now Facebook, after a month, deletes everything you post. So we post this today live, it'll stay on for a month, and then Facebook deletes it. So people that want to see what happened in previous times are going to have to go to YouTube, which so far is leaving everything up. So Margaret wants a copy of the minutes, and Mike will send those to her. Hopefully she can tune in and be a part even from a distance, and would love to have her come back and play some music for us. That was a really beautiful part of her participation. Haven't heard from anybody else. No, haven't heard from anybody else. Do we have any concerns locally? Haven't heard of anything, so hopefully things are going good here other than the weather. The rain, a lot of rain, but it's helping the crops. The corn looks good, the beans look good. I've done some investigation into corn. I think I told you about that. If you look, there's corn everywhere. Corn. Only about 7% of that corn is used for human consumption. Popcorn, corn oil, corn tortillas, the things that we actually use corn for. Almost 40% of it goes to animal feed, which turns into human feed, but the other 40% goes to ethanol. So when people talk about the loss of habitat, the loss of farm ground to solar plants or any other kind of like housing developments, we have more farm ground than we need right now. That doesn't say we won't need it in the future. But I don't think personally we need that much corn ground for ethanol. That is basically a subsidy. It's something to keep farmers in business, poured into the gas tanks. Basically, if we went to like China and went to electric cars, we wouldn't need gasoline hardly at all. So we'll see what the future brings. No matter, and what we're finding out is no matter what people tell us, no matter how hard the government tries to pass rules, reality will still win out in the end. Mother Nature still has her strength, and we can't stop global warming by saying it doesn't exist. We can't stop the seas from rising by ignoring the rising seas. We can't stop forest fires by saying it's the state's fault for not cleaning up the forest and cleaning the brush out. Dry weather and cutting the Forest Service, the Fire Protection Service, that is what's causing our problems, which is where we're getting into ethics and morals. Our first picture, when I started looking at this, I ran across this, The Fundamental Principles of the Metaphysics of Ethics by Immanuel Kant. Too bad Ty is not here. He could explain to us what the philosophy of ethics is. I tried to read the description of that, just like a little blurb they put on the front of a book that tells you what the book is about. I couldn't figure that out. There's terms of terminology that I don't understand and wasn't going to look at. They can make any subject so complicated that hardly anybody can understand it. That was one of the fun things I had when Tara started her study of the ministry. She had some books by theologians that she was supposed to read. They made absolutely no sense to me. I mean, you can read the Bible and understand what you want, and it's good to have the research behind it. But the thinking can get pretty convoluted when you start explaining what your understanding is as opposed to other people. I really have a suspicion some of these people do it, and they speak in confusing metaphors and extrapolated language just to confuse people and try to impress people with how smart they are. She seems to understand it, so I can't say that's the true understanding. She went ahead and got her doctorate in theology, which meant she at least had to answer questions on the test. So I will give her the respect for that. But anyway, so we're not going to talk about Kant, we're not going to talk about ethics. What we're going to talk about is morals and ethics, the difference between them. Israel, I think it's 280 or 290 journalists have been killed in Gaza. Al Jazeera journalists, independent journalists. As I said before, it seems that Israel is targeting and killing journalists intentionally. They are also targeting, it seems, hospitals. Every hospital in Gaza, every hospital in the West Bank has been hit and almost destroyed. It is getting to the point where there is a place in Lebanon where there's a Crusader fortress that's on the International Registry of Historic Places. There was a report that was blown up. Something from before the Christ was born, there was a castle there. And of course, the Israelis are saying it was a home for Hamas. But they are saying that the hospitals are a home. They're saying every place in Gaza, every place in the West Bank is home for Hamas. And they're leveling it as they go along. Settlers' villages are being destroyed. Settlers are being killed. First responders are being killed. Journalists are being killed. What is going on, and all this is documented, is unbelievable. It is truly unbelievable. We are seeing the destruction of an entire land right before our very eyes. And the same situation holds true for Ukraine. Russia is still bombing with missiles, with guided missiles, with drones. Every night, 1 or 2 towns or 3 towns in Ukraine are being bombed. Tens of people are being killed. It's a war of attrition. The Ukrainians are basically answering in kind, except the Ukrainians are destroying military bases. The one new thing they've done is the Amazon of Russia, I don't remember the name, has big warehouses in Moscow. Ukrainians are now bombing these warehouses. They are destroying the Amazon of Russia, which means what they are doing is touching the Russian people who have basically been oblivious. As long as their son or daughter is not at the front and not killed, they pretty much ignore the war. When their gasoline lines, their gasoline supply has been interrupted, when they have to stand in line to get gas, And now when they have to stand in line to get their personal items they've ordered online, the Russians' population is going to become affected by what's going on. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. But death for each side is something we regret, and hopefully someone can do something about. We've talked about the floods in the United States, the fires in the United States. It spreads throughout FEMA. I talked to a guy in Miamisburg. I had to go down there to they had a party on the park in Miamisburg 2 nights ago. We were down there handing out campaign stuff, and they had a demonstration. The fire department had a demonstration of extrication, like we had a traffic accident, which brings back memories when I was an EMT, paramedic, firefighter. You break the glass, you use the jaws of life to pop the doors open. You bring the people out, put them on a backboard, and send them off in the ambulance. So we got to watch that. So the kids got to watch it, which is always fun. I felt like I was a kid again. So that was a good time down in Miamisburg. Okay, anything else? Can't think of anything right offhand. All the people that we used to see here at church, used to hear from, hopefully they are doing well. If any of them need anything, let us know. We'll try and keep in touch. And let me read this. We light this last candle to remind us of some of the most exuberantly felt joys and painfully felt sorrows lie unspoken in some hearts. That's one of the things that we used to say on a regular basis. And Richard, that's one of Richard's favorites, and I like that one. So. All right. Didn't have time to do a children's story this week. We don't have any children anyway, but it's always fun to kind of put something on the screen that has movement. So if I can get some time worked out in the future, I will go back to that. But we'll go right to the message, ethics or morals. The basic beginning of ethics or morals, people think ethics and morals are the same or they're connected. They are connected, one flows from the other, but they are two different spheres. Ethics is basically, it's concerned with legality. Ethics is something that institutions or churches or companies produce a legal document which tells you what the ethics of that company, that church. It tells you what the right and wrong things, how to behave, how to answer questions. In the hospital, there's like a privacy, it's called HIPAA. That is part of the ethics program. You're not allowed to talk about the families of patients. You can't even give that information out if the patient doesn't want it released, even to other family members. That is part of the ethical situation in all businesses. Morals is a personal thing. That's what I've basically discovered, the difference between ethics and morals. Ethics is a formal, written, legal definition of what is right and wrong. Morals is something that is personal. And it is something that affects each individual, and each individual makes their own decision of what is right and wrong. And that can be a problem. I'll talk about that in a little bit. You can have ethics that give you a broad guideline for what to do, and then you can come into the situation where your morals tell you the ethical thing that your company says you have to do is not the moral thing to do. So we'll see if we can discuss that a little bit. Our next scripture that concerns this is Proverbs 20, verse 23. Unequal weights are an abomination to the Lord, and false scales are not good. Even the Bible says that you're not to cheat as a business person or as a person who is dealing with other people. Unequal weights are an abomination to the Lord. In other words, when you have the scales and you weigh off, and you remember that was the children's story I was going to do, was the story of Silas, the farmer who, when he came to the scales, the miller weighed him through because he would never cheat them on the weight of the grain he was bringing. And I told you the story that when I worked at the elevator in Pleasant Hill, when we sold, we would buy grain from the farmers, store it at the elevator, and then sell it. You buy at harvest time when they have no storage. You give them whatever the market price is then. You hold your grain until the off season, until the summer, when there is no more grain coming in, or the middle of the winter. And then you sell the grain at a profit because the price has gone up because nobody has grain available. Grain is sold by the weight. It looks like by the bushel, but it's actually weighed out. When the truck comes in, they weigh the truck. They don't count the bushels. They don't, if it's a 1,000 bushel truck, they don't count the bushels. They count the weight. the weight changes. When you bring grain in, if a farmer brings corn out of the field at 15%, it has to be like 11 or 12% to store. So the elevator will apply a dryer to it and dry that corn down. That's why the price the farmer gets is lower, because the elevator has to pay the money to dry it down. Then the elevator stores it at 11%, and as it's stored, it dries out even farther. Sometimes by itself, it'll dry out to 8 or 9%. So when the elevator sells it to like Cargill or someplace that uses the grain to make further products, like for ethanol, they unload that grain into a truck, and they're selling it by the weight, and it's lost weight. So what do? There's a hose on the elevator that goes up to the truck. They're actually pumping water into the grain as it goes up into the truck. They don't want to get over 15% because then they'll get caught. But if they can get it from 9 to 12 or 9 to 13, that's that much more money they will get from it. That is the mechanics, and that's what capitalism is. That's what people will tell you, use your head, and it's not illegal. It's not, I don't think it's actually unethical. I'm not sure how moral it is. But it is, capitalism doesn't concern itself with morals or ethics. It concerns itself with what's the way to make money and following the rules. And there's no rule against moisturizing your corn. And actually, I'm sure when farmers have their own grain storage, I'm sure they do the same thing. So that's the way we would start. What the problem comes is fairness. And I'm going to give you a bunch of examples which are really bothering me now. I guess I can start off by saying, have you ever carpooled and been riding with a driver who made you a little nervous? I've had to ride on some of the places we go. I've got volunteer drivers that want to go along, and they're willing to drive, which saves me the money of gas and expense and everything else. Some of them are pretty old, hard of hearing, and wonder about their eyesight. They drive like 90 miles an hour. They drive like kids. They jam the gas on and take off. They take the corners like a two-wheel cart. I'm like there, my knuckles are getting white from gripping the seatbelt. That's the feeling I'm getting as we go through our political life, as we watch what happens every day. I feel like I'm riding in the ship of state or the auto of state. I'm the passenger or sitting in the back seat, and the people driving are handicapped. They can't see, they can't hear, they have their own ideas. They're rage-induced drivers. They keep getting mad at people and trying to force them off the road. They'll pass anybody who's not going the right speed. They stick their head out the window and give people a hand sign that none of us likes. They'll yell at people. That's kind of what's going on, and some of the examples of that. Earlier this month, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services introduced a new rule stating that even if a person has a terminal disease diagnosis, like cancer, AIDS, or Parkinson's, that is not enough to exempt them from the new rule of work requirements. The new rule for Medicaid is you have to work 80 hours a month. You have to either look for work, have work, or have an exemption that you don't need to work. All these people with terminal diagnoses are now being told they have to work 80 hours a month. They have to say that they've been looking for work, or they have to have the exemption. The exemption, once again, if you remember what's happened to unemployment, there used to be an unemployment office in every town. Greenville used to have one. When you got unemployed, you went up to the office, the lady there helped you fill out the paperwork, and you filed for unemployment. Now the unemployment office is in Pickwa, and you don't go there in person, you file it on a computer. The whole point of this is, in my understanding, is to keep people from filing for unemployment. People that don't have a way to get to Pickwa and don't understand computers and don't have a computer are unable to file unless they can find somebody to help them. Fortunately, the libraries have computer access. The librarians are pretty good at helping people. Everybody in the town of Greenville that needs unemployment can't go to the library. So it is an intentional complication of the process to push people out, to keep people out from applying. The same thing is going on for people who have a terminal disease. What kind of country tells people with a terminal disease they have to prove that they can't work or they can't get Medicaid? Medicaid is what keeps these people alive. Without insurance payments, They don't pay for their cancer treatments. They don't pay for their Parkinson's drugs. They don't pay for their AIDS prevention treatments. That's another, we talked about that before, AID, USAID, that sends donation money overseas. How many thousands of people have died in Africa with AIDS because the preventative pills that all it took was a pill a day, and many of these people have been stopped by our government and stopped sending these pills, as they call it a waste of money. Saving lives is called a waste of money, and we just slide over that because there's so many other things happening. So, and then we'll talk about morals and ethics. I'm sure all of you have seen the ads on TV against Amy Acton and against Sherrod Brown. The ones against Amy Acton are, I can't even describe it, calling her a drug addict, pill addict, saying that she was incompetent and unable to understand the medical diagnoses. She's a doctor, has been an accepted doctor, and there's no questions about her license. Saying that she closed schools and kept people from going to funerals. Governor DeWine himself has said he was in charge and made the final decisions on all these wearing masks, on closing schools, on distancing. Governor DeWine has said that, and yet these commercials, these ads, these attack ads continue to be broadcast, and people continue to see these over and over and over again, sometimes 2 or 3 times during the evening news broadcast. Basically out and out lies. Where is the ethics? Where are the ethics? Where is the moral foundation? And what is happening? This is not new. Attack ads are not new, but they seem to be getting more, well, maybe it's because we're seeing here getting more and more vicious every year and more untruthful. Some of the things have a shred of truth. You remember the things against Dukakis when they talk about the black guy that got out of jail, was released out of jail and killed somebody. That actually had a factual basis. The understanding, the interpretation was a little screwed up. But there was an actual factual basis that that black person did get out of jail and did kill somebody. The things that are being said about Sherrod Brown and Amy Acton are completely whole cloth made up of lies. The foundation clear to end. The only thing truthful is she was the doctor in charge of working with the COVID disease and made the recommendations, but those recommendations were signed off on by Governor DeWine, who and he has said that. All right, let's see. Oh, the lady said the police came to her home. She was drunk. And evidently, her history is she was raised in a foster home, put herself through school. I didn't know that about her history, and I'm going to research that a little bit more. But talk about the difference between the people we are seeing. The person who opposite her is running for governor was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, truly. Started a business in Ohio, moved it to Texas, and is espousing things about cutting people off of Medicaid, about closing Ohio universities, about increasing. He's an investor in data centers and makes profit. Every time a data center opens, he makes more money. The fact that these people are running equal to each other in the public awareness in Ohio is just literally astounding to me. And we'll probably talk about that in the future, how facts, you cannot convince some people with facts and figures what it is that makes people believe the things that they believe. What's the cultural trick or the cultural hook that brings them in and makes them oblivious to reality. And this is not the first time this has happened. Every time there's a mass movement, and I've relayed that before too about what happened in Germany in the 30s. The same principles apply. And I can bring you some information on that. Right, morals are deeply held personal beliefs about what is right and wrong, shaped by upbringing, culture, religion, and life experience. They guide individual behavior and are internalized, often reflecting a person's conscience and sense of integrity. For example, choosing to tell the truth even if when it is difficult or helping someone in need out of kindness reflects personal morals. We've talked about this before. Families that are conservative families that talk about the invasion of immigrants, that talk about how black people are sucking off of the welfare system and don't deserve anything. If a black family would break down in front of their house and need gas or need a ride to town, These people are more than willing to help anybody on an individual basis. They do not, most of them, I can't say all of them, most of the ones I talk to would not discriminate on an individual basis. But as soon as you start talking about the general principles of welfare or immigration or the borders, they spout the party line, the company line, that everybody coming across is a murderer or a rapist. Everybody that lives in Dayton is taking welfare, is taking public money and don't deserve it. That all of the immigrants are going to the hospital and getting free medical care. You can confront them over and over again. There is no free medical care for immigrants. They do not qualify for tax relief. They don't qualify for Medicaid, for subsidies. The free medical care they get is because hospitals are obligated to treat anybody who comes in. If you're in a traffic accident, the hospital may ask you about your insurance, but they won't refuse to treat you if you don't have insurance. What we're finding is, and this is another thing between ethics and morals, if you don't have the money, if you don't have insurance, they will stabilize you and then transfer you to a hospital that is a public hospital, or they will send you to a homeless shelter. That is one of the more despicable things that we are seeing now. And the same thing is happening even with homeless shelters. When they get people who cannot afford and they don't have room for them, they send them off, or nursing homes. If they have somebody who's a Medicaid patient who loses their Medicaid, they don't just put them out on the street. They're not allowed to do that. They take them to a homeless shelter in some other town and leave them in front of the homeless shelter. I've given you examples of that before. The people from the homeless shelter coming out and finding a confused old man sitting in a wheelchair with a bag of belongings and a bag of drugs, just sitting in front, waiting to be brought into the homeless shelter. That is not only not ethical behavior, that is immoral behavior. But that is what, when a society is run by money, and when tax cuts are more important than service, we've talked about this before, the things that we say as a culture are the most important things: taking care of the elderly, taking care of the children. Who are the lowest paid workers in our society? The people who take care of the elderly, the aides that work in nursing homes, the aides that come into your house, the aides that are the people you hire to clean your house. And the other lowest paid workers are child care workers, people who care for children. Some of the centers now are becoming more and more expensive, and that is where, when the government steps in, and you can take any European country or Canada, they have subsidies for child care. They are astounded when they find out if a woman has a child in the United States, you're lucky to get 2 or 3 weeks of maternity leave. In Europe, you get a year of maternity leave. You are paid your salary for a year to stay home and take care of the baby, and your job is assured to be there when you get back. Even husbands get like 3 months or 4 months of maternity leave to bond with those kids. That is the sign of an enlightened society. Okay, in professional settings, ethics ensure consistency and accountability, such as medical codes of conduct for legal procedures, while personal morals influence how individuals interpret and apply. And I told you that story at Wayne Hospital on second shift, like 11 o'clock at night. Some lady comes in, her mother was in an accident. We took x-rays. I told her what the x-rays were about. She wanted a copy to show her husband because she couldn't remember. The rules are you have to go to medical records and have approval. You have your HIPAA thing has to be signed, which I'd already talked to her mother, and her mother said, sure, my daughter can have everything that she wants. So I gave her a copy and I said, don't tell anybody, because this, ethically, I can't do this according to the hospital rules. She came back the next morning and went up to the desk at the nursing station and said, I lost the copy that Tim gave me, can I have another one? So Tim got in trouble for handing out a paper copy, which she would have had the next day anyway. But that is the difference between the rules that are ethically given to you and the moral decisions that you make at the time. Another example, and I talk about this, is in the emergency room, if a patient comes in and asks for something to drink, the doctor says it's okay, we would give them a Coke or a Pepsi or a 7-Up, whatever they wanted. They would say, can my mom have one, or can my husband have one? The hospital said, we are supposed to make everybody happy. We want patient satisfaction to be high, but you cannot give family members drinks. You can only give a soda to the patient. nobody else. So that looks kind of funny when you take one in and say, you can have this, but you can't, and you can't, and you can't. So ethically, we were not allowed to do that. What did we do morally? We took in 1 can of soda and 3 glasses of ice and said, when the soda's gone, I'll bring you another. We're still following the rules. We're only bringing 1 can in for 1 patient. If they share it, that's not up to us to stop it. That is, in my estimation, ridiculous. They are saving $1 for a can of soda and still telling us we are to make patients and families happy. That is the problem with administration. Basically, from top to bottom, anybody that works in an organization will have the same kind of stories, I'm sure. So, what's going on now? We're going to transition a little bit toward the national scene. Is what I ran across in Yiddish, Meshuggah. Meshuggah means crazy, insane. The basic German name is Wahnsinn, which means crazy. What is happening is just crazy. The latest one, and every week there's another list. Minnesota and 7 other states had their water treatment computer controls were tampered with by an outside malicious person. They said, and the FBI told them that the people from Iran were basically trying to do this to the United States to cause trouble. The FBI said this, the national security people said this. What did the president say? Anybody hear on the news? Well, the president said it was state government screwed up. It was the governor of Minnesota, who was a Democrat, is responsible for the damage to the water supply controls. Even though the FBI said it was not the Iranians didn't do it. I don't understand exactly where the rationale is coming from. But he is saying not only in Minnesota did the Iranians not do it, and the state was at fault, he's saying the 6 other states that had the water system tampered with, the Iranians didn't do it. This is Meshuggah. This is crazy. One person can say that. And the power that one person has, you've heard about the No Kings demonstrations. The latest one, the president has just ordered the construction of 11 super icebreakers. 11 super icebreakers. That's billions of dollars worth of ships. The reason? Because Russia has 40 super icebreakers, because Russia has a huge amount of Arctic exposure. We at the present time have 2, and the Coast Guard said we need 5, so they asked for 3 more. He has ordered 11. No bidding, it's another no bid contract. He gave it to somebody who contributed money for billions of dollars. The Congress did not authorize this. He went around Congress like he always does. And the worst part is he authorized billions of dollars for the construction of the icebreakers, but $0 to fund for crews, to fund for bases for them to be stationed at, for staffing, for the supplies, the munitions, everything, the fuel oil, everything that goes into running an icebreaker. All that takes funds, sometimes as much funds as building it. None of that money is appropriated. All he has done is said we are going to build 11 super icebreakers. This is crazy. We are being run by like a 5-year-old who's running this country. A 5-year-old is driving the car down the street, yelling out the window, and swerving from one side of the road to the other with no adult supervision whatsoever. And it is not just the top of the ticket, it comes on down. How many of you saw the Ohio Congressman Miller, who was accused of abusing his wife? You know who his wife is? His wife is Bernie Moreno's daughter. Bernie Moreno's daughter accuses him of holding a gun to her head, beating her, pouring boiling water on her. She has a restraining order against him. Bernie Moreno, our senator, has said absolutely nothing to defend his daughter. Does anybody have a suspicion why? It turns out Congressman Miller says he has some dirt on Senator Moreno. He has been caught online trolling 4 places and going to online places he should not be going. This is all just rumor, and I'm not saying it's true, but I'm saying there has to be a reason that Bernie Moreno is not defending his daughter. Anybody else, if my daughter's husband abused her, I would be tearing the floor up to get there to protect her and to get her out and take her side of the story. So it comes downhill and it keeps getting worse. And you might have seen Dr. Fauci, the interview for Dr. Fauci in the Congress. Who was the congressman or the senator who swore, used the F word and said that Dr. Fauci was a liar? Bernie Moreno, our senator. That is embarrassing to have a senator with that kind of morals, with that kind of ethics. This is not political, this is just plain facts of life. This is the way that people should behave and the way they are not behaving. And we are seeing this over and over and over again. I'll give you some more examples. Capital One, the big banking company, has closed 300 accounts. The Trump Foundation, all the Trump businesses, all of their accounts at Capital One have been closed. They have been accused of money laundering, of not being honest in the way they're doing their money. No federal investigation has been brought. No charges have been filed because the Justice Department is under the control of the president. But the bank says they don't want to be involved in this type of operation anymore. Capital One, who's it's a dangerous thing to do, is to cross the president, as we see, and everybody is seeing what happens. Pretty soon you're under investigation, you're arrested. It gets even worse. The gentleman you saw from the Olympics that was arrested for defiling the reflecting pool, for touching the fabric, Janine Pirro, who has done everything, has said they are dropping the charges because everybody knows from the pictures and everybody knows from everything everybody has seen that it's ridiculous. What did the president say? She's wrong and he's guilty and he should be convicted and sent to jail. No matter if there's any evidence, evidence doesn't count. What the 5-year-old wants done, that's what needs to be done. Even some of the people in the Republican Party are beginning to worry because the staffing in all of these agencies, and I've been going through all the agencies that have been cut. Staffing is the only requirement is you have undying and unwavering loyalty to the president. Your abilities, your intelligence, your grades, your history, nothing makes any difference. Even Republicans are beginning to worry about what's going to happen in a couple of years when people with absolutely no qualifications are running all of these agencies and staffing all of these agencies. We are riding in a car driven by a 5-year-old, swerving from side to side, not looking out the front window, not seeing what's going to happen. All right, I have a whole list of agencies that have been, like USAID, 94% of their people have been fired. Corporation for National Community Service, 47% of their people are fired. Department of Education, 45% fired. General Services Administration, 36% fired. That's the agency that keeps buildings, that does maintenance for buildings, and keeps them intact. Office of Management and Budget, 35% reduction. The Agency for Global Media, 34%. That is not Tokyo Rose, but the Armed Forces Radio. And the radio goes all over the world to broadcast what the truth is and what the American slant on the news is. Peace Corps, 33%. National Science Foundation, 32%. The Ag Department, the Interior Department, FEMA. FEMA is another one. Blue states are being refused any kind of disaster declaration. The federal government is refusing to send FEMA money to California, to Wisconsin, to any state that has any Democratic sponsorship at all. All that money goes to the red states in the South. It's criminal. These people, they're living in a dream world. They really think that a secure world we used to inhabit is a force of nature, that it happens all by itself, and all the good things that are happening in America are just because America is a good place to live. They can't connect the dots. That is, people who worked hard and gave their lives to the government and did a good job. National Park Service, and we can go on and on and on. All these places are being hollowed out. Our civilization is being dismantled right in front of us, and it is a frightening experience. Okay, questions, comments? probably go more on this. I hate to get so political, but this is getting to be, to me, really.
So where are the ethical controls in our government when we have a president that's the most unethical president in history? Where are the controls?
That's what people have written in opinion pieces. We talk about checks and balances. The checks and balances we thought were built into the Constitution. The Congress has to approve what the president does. The Congress spends the money. The Supreme Court tells you what the legality or illegality is. It turns out all these checks and balances are nothing but an illusion. The checks and balances come only from the feelings and the morals of the people involved. The ethical rules that are written mean absolutely nothing. The Congress is refusing to take the purse strings. The Congress is refusing any kind of oversight. Then the Supreme Court, anything that happens that he doesn't like, it goes to the Supreme Court, they rubber stamp it. Things that make no sense. Justice Thomas is telling us that if it wasn't written in the original foundation of the Constitution, it doesn't apply. So because the original Constitution didn't talk about the freedom of choice for women to have abortions, because abortion is not mentioned in the Constitution, then it is not a constitutional right. It doesn't make any sense. The Constitution didn't say anything about AK-47s. It didn't say anything about everybody carrying a sidearm. The Constitution says you can have a cannon and you can have a muzzle loader. Is that what Justice Thomas says? Everybody is welcome to have a cannon and a muzzle loader? No, he says you can have bump stocks. You can have the thing that attaches to your handgun and makes it into a machine gun. People are being killed on every state, on every day, in every place, with a multitude of guns, people who shouldn't have guns. Now they've even said that the Supreme Court has said people who are spousal abusers, who've had their guns taken away, have a right to have a gun. So somebody who's threatened his wife, like Congressman Miller, can now get his gun back because the Supreme Court says your right to kill somebody is more important than your right to be safe from being killed. The car is being driven by a 5-year-old, a drunk 5-year-old at that. I mean, it's Wahnsinn. It's crazy. It's Meshuggah. It doesn't make any sense. Some of these people are going to have to wake up, and I always thought they would wake up when it happened to them, which it will be happening to them. Medicaid, they're canceling the Medicaid coverage. It won't happen until after November. They made sure to time it right. But after November, people's parents and grandparents are going to be kicked out of nursing homes because they don't have the money. Already there's a food shortage because the government supplies for food have been cut off. I told you about that. The government used to pay local farmers to bring food, fresh food, local fresh food, like farmers markets, to the food banks so people could have fresh produce. They've cut that money off. Not only does that hurt the people who need food, that helps the farmers. Family farmers are in a world of hurt. The small farms that don't have the government subsidies, like the giant corn farmers or bean farmers, they can't exist without some kind of a market. And the markets have been taken away from them. Their inputs, their fertilizer costs, the diesel costs have all gone up, the pesticide costs have all gone up. But their income has been slashed by nobody being willing to give their produce, their food to poor people who would like to eat it. So poor people go buy chips and hamburgers and stuff because they even tell people it's cheaper to eat at McDonald's than it is to go to the grocery store and buy food. That's incredible. It's incredible. We are subsidizing, I've ridden this horse before too. Walmart, they pay their people so little that people can qualify for food stamps and work at Walmart. That is us, the taxpayers, subsidizing the company of Walmart so they can hire lower priced workers. If they had to pay for all their own food, they would have to make more money. Supposedly it takes $23 an hour to be able to afford housing and food these days. The wage in Ohio, the national wage is like $7.50, and the minimum wage in Ohio is like $11.50. So people can't, even at the minimum wage, they can't afford to make the money. We can go on and on. Now they can hire 14-year-old kids to work 7 days a week in a fast food restaurant because they can't afford anything else, and they can charge these kids and they can pay these kids less, give them less for benefits. Capitalism is eating us alive, so to speak. Okay. Offering. Anything you have to contribute is more than
Fish.
Fish, yes, first Sunday of the month. And that's the other thing I forgot to mention. Anybody see the new passports? Guess whose picture, if you get a passport now, guess whose picture is gonna be on it? It's just, it's insane.
Mine's good at 10 for years.
We're going to hear, what are we gonna hear? Love Will Guide Us. Closing hymn is 360, Here We Have Gathered. side circle of kinship, come and step inside. May all who seek here find a kindly word. May all who speak here feel they have been heard. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Words that we profess to live by, and I think we do. Okay, extinguishing the chalice, let us leave this gathering not with the pressure to be polished, but with the permission to be real, to say the awkward thing kindly, to reach out before the words are perfect, to risk being seen, and in doing so make space for others to be seen too. In a world that often asks us to curate and filter, may we remember truth is magnetic, and small acts of honesty can call a community into being. Carry this light with you, not in your hands, but in your words, in your invitations, in your willingness to begin. That's a shared path. All right, our postlude, Ain't Misbehavin' by Fats Waller. Ain't Misbehavin'. Now we're going to be doing that. As usual, we'll leave our candle lit for those who have not been able to come, for those who might need something. We'll keep Margaret in our hearts and prayers. Lou and Denise, hopefully they're doing well in their transition. Anybody heard anything from Chaz and Paula? We need to get in touch with them somehow, so somebody needs to do that. And Ty, we saw Ty he came to the congressional meeting, which was really good, and said he just doesn't have the energy to get there in the morning. It'd be nice if he could come, because we need somebody who can sing real loud. So we'll see what we can do there. Our last picture is, you've heard about reading what all these people do and the way they treat the people underneath them. They are truly on their high horse. So this is the horse with the ladder, with the people who are privileged. You can see at the top, the lady says, "Bring me a tissue." And she says, "I'm almost getting a nosebleed. I'm so far above all the rest of you people, you little people down there below." So hopefully we can change that, and that takes people getting involved. You can't just sit back and say it's somebody else's responsibility. So we'll see you next week, hopefully. If you need anything, let us know. And we'll post this on YouTube in the next half hour or so. Coffee and donuts.
Well, maybe I'll see you down there.
What's that?
Maybe I'll see you down there.
Yes, I'm gonna try and get down there. I don't know if I'll make it today, because I gotta be there